Hello and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. Today's video is sponsored by our Amazon affiliate link, which you'll see in the comments section below. So today I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about why you want to quarantine your plants when you get them from the nursery. These plants are a good example. These were some pothos, and pothos is generally pretty hardy, doesn't usually have any problems, but I got these plants and before long they got riddled with mealybugs, and I hadn't put them in with the whole collection, but I had put them near some other plants, and then I had a problem with okay, now is it spread to the other plants, etc. So thing to keep in mind with that is it's best to quarantine them for about a month, so out of the way of other plants, to see if anything starts to come up. So what you want to do is you just keep an eye on them. So you want them in good lighting for them. You want to continue to water them correctly and that sort of thing. So put them in somewhere where they're going to get the conditions that they need, but not necessarily their forever home. And so what you want to do as you're watching them is keep an eye out for certain things. So you want to keep an eye out for things like the mealybugs, and I do have a sample of that, and also a sample of, so I have a sample of mealybugs, and then I do have a sample also of some scale. So this is mealybug, and you can see, if you can see that little white thing on there, and it looks like it's a funky little white, they look like little cotton pieces of cotton that have been stuck on your plant, but if you look at them closely, you'll see that they do have a shape. They are an insect, they have a shape, so be on the lookout for them. They like to go into where there's swirls and plants. They like to hide, basically. So you want to look underneath the leaves and that sort of thing. I have done a treatment on this plant since I did discover the mealybugs, and these two plants are okay now, and I have another video on that as well on how I did that. But just keep in mind that these are some things you want to look for. Also, scale. So that's the white cottony thing with the mealybugs. Like I said, look around, look at the base of the plant, look all over as you're during the quarantine to see if it has anything's popping up. Another thing to look for is on this plant here, Irelia here, you can see all those little bumps, and you see the stippling in the leaves, and it's creating discoloration. So those right there, that is scale. And scale creates bumps, little hard bumps. They really like to go onto, if the plant has a trunk, they love to connect to a trunk. They will connect to the leaves as this. Interesting thing on here, it looks like there is a natural predator that has actually come in to eat the scale, which I find really fascinating. This plant is kept, that's another thing that can happen. Latent disease, unfortunately, much later can happen, which did happen with this plant, but generally speaking, that month is a good enough time to show you any problems. But this plant, the scale just appeared. But what's interesting is it's in my office where I keep the door open a lot. I am in Southern California, and it looks like a natural predator that we released to take care of the giant whitefly, which we had a problem with, has actually come in and is working on eradicating the scale on this plant, and there's only a few leaves affected. So what you also want to do when you find the affected leaves is to take them off of the new plant and then continue to monitor it to see how it does. So this plant, I will be doing something in the future on the biological controls, because this is a biological control, an unintended one, but it's fascinating that it's actually doing it. So that's what that white is there. That's actually the plant, that biological control, eating the insides of the scale out and eradicating them that way. However, if you do find that you have mealybugs, scale, spider mites is another thing. So if you see spider webs being formed within your plants, fortunately don't have something to show you along those lines, then that is something, that is spider mites. And if you take a leaf and you shake it on a piece of white paper, you'll see little things scurrying around. That's a sign of spider mites. So they can also show up on your plants during quarantine. So treatment options for them include, so for mealybugs, I like to use 70% isopropyl alcohol, and also another thing that I have another video on, putting them outside for a period of time. So that works really well on the mealybugs, and rinsing them off as well. And then the scale insect, you want to use horticultural oil. So it's an oil that basically suffocates them. So you would saturate the leaves with oil fairly well, and then it will suffocate them and they will die. And then you will need to rinse them off, and basically kind of, unfortunately with the scale, they tend to stick. So you'll have to rinse them off and kind of sometimes even gently pull them off of the leaf itself, the carcasses. And with spider mites, neem oil as well as insecticidal soap works really well. Insecticidal soap can work for the scale, but if the scale infection is pretty bad, then you'll want to use the horticultural oil instead. Okay, so what do you do? So you've done this. You're also going to see things like root rot coming up. You can then treat for root rot if the plant in quarantine starts to get that. Or ideally, great, the plant is still looking really good after a month, then you can take the plant and say hi, and introduce the plant to all its new family, and put the plant where you would like to put the plant. But this is just a really good way to make sure you don't introduce into your garden some things that you would wish that you had never introduced, and create a lot of problems for a lot of your plants that were doing well before. So that is that for today. Thank you for stopping by. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. And remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video.